Welcome to Horse Bytes, your go-to source for keeping up with the show jumping world. Well, Rotterdam is complete, and we now know the teams for the Longines League of Nations finals in Barcelona. It was a thrilling week of action in the Dutch park, with more individuals putting in deciding rounds for Olympic selection. The Globals moved over to Paris this week in a special location due to Olympic preparations, and Hickstead saw their annual four-star Al Shirat Derby Week take over the All England jumping course. We're going to take a look at our sixth team predictions for the Netherlands and see who might be heading to Paris for the Dutch squad. And we had a fascinating follow-up chat with American superstar Karl Cook, who's updated his stance regarding the shoe-no-shoe debate. But first, check out how I keep my skin microbiome healthy during my summer excursions with Symbiome's mini travel essentials. Summer travel and jet lag wreaks havoc on my skin, and I tend to get these dark circles under my eyes that I'd do anything to fix. That's why I don't go anywhere without the Answer Reparative Serum and the Luminary Eye Cream from Symbiome. I use my ring fingers, because they're the most gentle, to first dab the Answer to nourish my skin, and then top it off with the Luminary to depuff. The green coffee oil in it has caffeine and chlorogenic acid, so the gentle skin under my eyes starts to tingle, and I can already feel fresh and rejuvenated for wherever my travels take me. And how cute are the mini travel-sized Symbiome bottles? Perfect for carry-on luggage. Now, back to the action. Let's take a look at the major winners from last week. It was a wild week in Rotterdam at the Longines League of Nations event, with zeros across the board and teams with only 4 faults getting knocked out of the second round. France eventually took the win in a stunning display of consistency over Sweden and Great Britain. With 14 clear in the Grand Prix, hometown hero Mark Houtzager and Sterrenhoff's Dante put on a real show to claim the win.
For a historical French win.
The LGCT Grand Prix in Paris also saw a hometown win for the young Jean Sadron and Dexter de Kerglen, who jumped the only double clear to claim their first Global Champions Tour victory.
Is it going to happen? She has won! The tears! Let them flow, let them flow!
And Derby Week at the 4-star in Hickstead saw the 4 falters jump off with William Funnell and Dubois.
William Funnell
jumping the only deciding round clear and taking the win over fellow countrymen William Whitaker and Flamboyant 3. Welcome to Showstopper, powered by EquiRatings. This week, it's all about the Dutch. Not only did we see the Dutch compete in their home Nations Cup in Rotterdam last week and win the 4-star Nations Cup in Sopot the week prior, but they are looking strong coming into the games. They are currently the 3rd strongest nation on our list, taking into account their top 4 ELO-rated horses, with an average rating of 756. But with 68 active horses, chef-d'equipe Jos Lansink has some choosing to do. So let's get into the stats. If we were to look at the highest-rated horses on the list, the team would look like this. Michael van der Vleuten and Beauville Zed on an ELO of 779, the reigning individual bronze medalist, and it certainly looks like they have been saving and preparing for a spot on the team. Harry Smulders and Monaco NOP on an ELO of 771, an incredible combination that has finished on the podium countless times and dominated with a 63.2% clear rate. Willem Greve and Highway TN on an ELO of 726, the recent winning combination from the Rolex Grand Prix in Den Bosch, but with recent chatter online, Greve is most likely thinking to take his other mount Grand Dorado. And fourth would be Lars Kersten and Funky Fred on an ELO of 709, a younger, greener combination that has certainly made waves for the Dutch squad in recent months, but is lacking some experience. Now, taking into consideration other factors and more recent form, let's look at some other combinations. First up would be Harry Smulders' other mount, Eureka's van de Kattenbenen. They've been jumping at a 60% clear rate in recent months, but have the 3rd highest ELO for the Dutch overall on a rating of 735. Kars Bonhoff and the one-eyed Hernandez TN NOP has incredible stats with a 100% clear rate over 5-meter-60 rounds, but unfortunately they will miss out on the Olympics due to a recent injury. Willem Greva is most likely thinking to take Grand Dorado, but with them just acquiring their COC last week in Sopot, their stats don't even fall within our top 10 on the list. Perhaps a riskier choice, but with Greva's wealth of experience, it should be a solid combination. Kim Emmen and Imagine are on the fourth strongest CAS of 1.5 in recent months, and Matthias van Asten have had some strong results recently with Sirocco. Following recent results and chatter in the industry, here at Horse Bytes, we think the Dutch team will actually look like this: Michael and Boville, Harry and Eureka's, Willem Greva and Grand Dorado, and most likely Kim Emmen and Imagine. With a previous medal-winning combination on the projected team and some highly decorated athletes, the Dutch are certainly hoping to bring home the goods come July in Paris. Thank you guys so much for everyone who has watched and subscribed to Horse Bytes so far. The show has been seen by over 12 million people to date, but not all 12 million of you have subscribed yet. It means so much to us to have your support, and the more people who subscribe and follow along, the more tailored the content can become. We'd love for you to share your feedback, hit the subscribe button below, and help us bring you the best show jumping highlights from around the world. This week on Weekly Wonder, we had another fascinating chat with American champion Karl Cook about his changing sentiments regarding the shoe no shoe debate. We spoke with Karl back on episode 6 about his process and thoughts surrounding the barefoot trend in high-level sport, but recently, and after some tremendous success with a win in Rome and second-place finish in La Baule, Karl has some new thoughts on the matter. Last time we spoke, we discussed Caracol going barefoot. She came to you barefoot, you kept her barefoot, but recently you had to jump on grass, and in order to use studs for traction, you had to put shoes on. So talk us through that a little bit. What kind of shoes, and what was that process of actually putting shoes on a barefoot horse?
Well, I mean, the process is easy. You glue them or nail them.
Which one did you do?
So, for us, we wanted to, we'd never done it before. She'd never had shoes on before. We decided to nail on 3D printed plastic shoes. We went with them because people have this fear of nails, and they think glue is always better, but
Okay.
it's not always. The reason we went with nails instead of glue is, if you think about it, if your hand is here, and if I flex my hand like this, okay, it can do that. If I take both my hands and my hands are not glued together, I can go like this, but you'll
Yeah.
feel a bit of slide in between your hands because
Right.
one part's stretching and one part's compressing. Where if I glue my hands together, that slide is no longer allowed to happen. And so you actually get a less flexible structure. So the shoe flexes less.
Interesting. Why did you think that the weight was so important to keep light? I mean, again, we're not talking about a tremendous amount of weight. It is a large animal. Did you think that that tiny amount of weight could make a difference?
I believe so. I think, it's as simple as, like, if you run barefoot, or if you run in a light running shoe, or if you run in a heavy hiking boot, you're going to run three different ways.
When we discussed barefoot, when she was barefoot when you got her, and we talked about this in the past, you were sort of adamant that maybe the stride length was maybe tiny bit shorter without shoes, but you felt that the scope really wasn't affected when it came to being barefoot or with shoes. Do you still feel that way now that you've had so much success in Rome, in La Baule, with shoes on?
Yeah. So her stride did change, which was what we expected.
Okay.
It did not. I was worried. My main worry was that the stride was going to get significantly longer, because one of the biggest side effects you have when you go barefoot, shod to barefoot, is that the stride will get too short. I think we have a much more stable stride. It's less of a shuffle, where barefoot she was a bit more shuffly in her canter. And I think with the plastic shoes at these two shows, I can't say any more than that because I don't have the experience.
Yeah.
It was a much more rhythmical stride, a much more stable stride. And I felt like we had more scope. Is that because she actually was pushing harder, or we had a more stable stride on takeoff, so it was just easier to push, or because she was more comfortable to push or land? It's probably a combination of all three.
How does that change the maintenance program? Like now, do you keep the shoes on? It's been going really well. Do you take them on and off? What is sort of your plan going forward with her?
And what we're gonna operate on is we take the shoes off when we don't show, and
Okay.
she does everything as normal. If we go to, say, like a 2-star show to get ready for another show, then we'll leave the shoes off.
Okay.
But before a big show, um, whether it's on grass or on sand, we're gonna put the shoes back on.
Now, overall, what would you say your general feelings towards the debate really is?
I mean, first, I think it really matters the horse's conformation and what the stable that has that horse is able to do. Um,
Okay.
you know, if your barn is asphalt and then you have to walk a quarter mile to the ring on gravel, then it's probably not the right
Yeah.
scenario for barefoot. I do believe that these plastic shoes kind of change the conversation a bit. They're also not right for everyone. I believe that we're coming to a point where it's not shoes or no shoes. It's it's more wearing the shoe that meets what the horse is doing. Just like just like us. If I'm going to the beach, I'm taking my shoes off. If I'm going hiking, I'm going to wear hiking boots. If I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to wear running shoes. We pick the shoe that is suited for the activity that we're doing.
So tailoring the experience per animal.
Correct.
What about putting front shoes on and keeping the back shoes off? Or putting back shoes on and no front shoes? I mean, we've had this discussion of maybe it's not one or the other, it's some combination of both.
It seems that if you go barefoot in front, you can keep the carefulness, and the shoes behind keeps the stride and the scope. For me, there's so many other things you got to get right first before I would ever say, "Hey, I think you're at a good place to start playing with the shoes."
Wow. Always fascinating to see how riders adapt their program and even change their opinion about controversial topics. It's not always easy to publicly change your stance on a matter, but Horsebites commends Karl for his candidness and willingness to do what is right for his particular horse. The shoe no shoe trend is a hotly debated topic with strong opinions on both sides, but adapting and trying new things is what gives top athletes a competitive edge against their opponents. Whether one opts for shoes all around, only up front or only behind, or entirely barefoot, doing what is right for that specific horse is always key to keeping our horses comfortable and performing at their best. Now, let's do a Wyld Things throwback and take a look at last year's Hickstead Derby with the incredible Harriet Biddick and Silver Lift. This was absolutely a wild thing. It happened last year in Hickstead at the Derby. Harriet Biddick, Silver Lift, they jump the Irish bank, slips a little bit. She goes to slow down and steady. Bridle comes off, clears the first plank, has the second one down, clears the third, can't steer to the last. Amazingly, she would have won for a third consecutive year, but as you can see, she jumps. Look at that body control, but she just can't steer to the last. What a shame that was. That's a wrap on this week's top highlights. Stay tuned to all of our socials. Make sure to subscribe and follow along all the action as it unfolds here on Horse Bites, your go-to source for keeping up with the show jumping world.